Today, we're joined by Chef Matthew Gray, a professionally trained chef, former food critic, and dynamic storyteller whose culinary journey spans decades and continents. Chef Gray honed his skills in Los Angeles, California, ascending to executive chef roles before becoming a personal chef for Hollywood celebrities and renowned rock bands like Fleetwood Mac and the Eagles. He later relocated to Honolulu, Hawaii, where he founded Hawaii Food Tours that offered immersive culinary experiences that were celebrated by visitors and locals alike. Chef Gray currently hosts a top-rated and notably recognized food podcast called 50 Tastes of Gray. With all of these accomplishments and experiences, he's decided to grace us with his presence as our guest on today's show. So tap in and let's welcome Chef Matthew Gray to Behind the Service. Chef Gray, I am so excited to have you here. You have such a rich and unique background, from cooking for celebrities and founding Hawaii Food Tours and now hosting the podcast that you have. I'm very excited to just dive into your world.
Oh, Courtney, thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course, I'm glad to have you on. I know there's so many places I can start, but it would make more sense to just start by asking you, could you tell us a little bit about how it all began for you in the culinary world? What drove you to cooking and food in the first place?
Great question. When I was a little kid, my mom would she was a really good housewife cook. And she was always adventuring and exploring different flavors and plate architecture and colors and aromas and stuff like that. And I really took to it. And so I used to watch her when I was a little kid, moving around the kitchen doing the cooking. And I used to use our little pet doggy. His name was Happy, as a step stool. That was like 150 pounds ago. And I would step on him and I would see what mom was cooking on the range. And, I fell in love with the whole food thing way back then. And she was a little bit freaked out because here I was, like a 3-year-old, following her around, wanting to know all about this
Yeah.
domestic stuff in the kitchen. And she worried about, I think, maybe my sexuality, my future sexuality. And so she said, "Why don't you go out and play?" And I said, "No, I want to watch you cook." So it started really, really early on.
Well, us women, at least I can't speak on behalf of all women, but I love a man that can cook. So
Well, it has worked in my favor, I think,
I
over the
bet it
years.
has.
Yeah.
Um, my next question, how do you feel, if you even feel this way, do you feel that the music industry may have helped prepare you or give you any helpful tools that you were able to apply to the culinary world?
You know, I was really fortunate because I got out early out of high school and I went on the road with the Eagles on their
Yeah.
Hotel California tour. And so I got to try foods all over the world when I was on tour with the rock and roll bands. So in some ways, yes, it really did help me understand the way that foods have a regional flavor
Hmm.
and a regional difference, and all the great people, because when it comes right down to it, all the difference of being able to make good food and good company is really what it's all about.
Yeah.
So if you have someone great to break bread with, you're going to have a nice time.
It's true. It's true. Food brings people together. I love food so much. I enjoy cooking. I'm no chef, but I enjoy cooking. I enjoy exploring in different recipes and things. Um, but I have like one of my biggest pet peeves. I don't know how to like be patient with people who are picky eaters. Picky eaters are my biggest pet peeve, and I'm so blessed to say that my toddlers, like my husband's kind of picky compared to me, but not excessively. But my toddlers luckily have my taste buds, so they eat just about everything. I have a 3 and 2-year-old who enjoys charcuterie boards for snacks, so I'm blessed. So I'm excited for them to get older and we go travel and eat.
Oh, yeah. No, that's fantastic. If you're starting them young on the exploration of flavor, I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
great place to be.
Yeah. Thank you. How do you define hospitality outside of what most people think hospitality is? Just hotels, restaurants. What is the definition of hospitality to you?
Hospitality is helping to make the people that surround you feel more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything that you can do, whether it's the wow factor, which is something
Yeah.
that I've always worked with, is, people might not remember what they ate with me when they hung
Mhm.
out with me, but they will remember how I made them feel. And so if
Absolutely.
I can get that going, I'm going to be doing a good job.
That's great. I learned that working uh, in Midtown Atlanta. And I remember my orientation leader was explaining to us the difference in luxury. And she asked, what's the difference between our mattresses here and the mattresses down the street? And we all, of course, came up with all of these crazy ideas. Oh, they're made from different linens and cottons. And just like, no, nothing at all. There's no difference between our mattresses here and the downtown. The difference is our service, is how we make people feel. It is how we, how we check the guests in, and the faces that they see when they leave the room. And so that is so important.
Yeah,
um
training is such an important part of hospitality, and is interesting the way that she asked you that question, what's the difference between the mattresses? Because she made you, by asking that question, believe there was a difference.
yeah.
And so, a good interviewer or a good trainer can do things like that. It's a little bit of a manipulation, but really it gets you to start thinking about really absorbing and listening to the questions.
Absolutely. And it makes you do a lot of self-reflection. It makes you carry yourself a lot differently no matter where you are. You may want to behave or be a certain way as an employee at the, maybe you don't work at the anymore and you're like me and you graduate, or you I worked at the for an internship. So as soon as the summer ended, I went back to Tallahassee where I was going to school, and I worked at the downtown Tallahassee. And those were drastic differences. But because she taught me early on the importance of service, I never changed. My personality, my luxury service, my heart of hospitality that I developed during the summer has transferred with me from every brand, every location. And that's what matters. Hospitality is who we are and not really what we do.
That's right. And
Yeah.
no matter at what level you're working, you should
Hmm.
always be the best you can be. And people who are in the role of training others to offer service should always make sure that people understand that.
Absolutely. Thank you. One of my goals is to be a professor in hospitality and influence the next professionals coming in. Um, I've worked in the industry as an operations leader. And so, what you're saying right now are things that I've tried to do or that I've tried to encourage a lot of my employees to do. I've even seen a difference in how we carry ourselves based on where we are in the industry. For example, in your field, Chef Gray, being in the kitchen, things are kind of ran militantly. Things are very on point. And I've seen employees do lateral service where they've moved through across departments and they behave a certain way in the kitchen, or they behave a certain way in guest facing positions as a server or as a bartender or as a front desk agent. But the moment that they get into heart of house or behind or back of house departments, they'll come to my department, which is housekeeping, and just behave all sorts of ways. I'm like, we don't act like that this way. So, no, I appreciate you saying that because that's very important. I hope that this platform and this podcast touches every part of the industry and that they hear someone as accomplished as you say that. And so, everyone from a hotel engineer, a top chef, a janitor, a housekeeper can see this and feel that we are hospitality professionals, so we should carry ourselves as such.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Thank you.
I'm seeing a really cool kind of image when I'm looking at you. I'm seeing like what looks like smoke and vapors. Do you have a
Oh,
hot cup of coffee there, or is it a
I
magic
have both.
scene?
So I have my like water vapor that kind of
Oh,
just
that's
relaxes me. I do a mix of lavender and orange essential oils. So it's like
okay.
relaxing, but it doesn't make me sleepy. The orange kind of wakes me up a bit. And then
It's a
yeah,
very
and
cool effect on the screen, I
uh,
just must tell you.
thank you. I didn't even realize it. I'm glad you asked. I don't want someone to think it's something else. But yeah, I
Right.
have
I thought maybe it was something else.
I have that, and sometimes I even do incense, and then I have a cup of tea. I'm a very I am a very anxious person, very anxious all the time and constantly busy, and my mind goes certain places. And so I do like an excessive amount of routines whenever I am interviewing, or if I'm studying something, or if I'm creating some sort of content and I really want to focus. I have like lo-fi music, incense burning, tea, just sources. I've kicked my husband and my children out. They're at the park, like as much as I can get.
I totally get that. Can I share an easy relaxation technique with you and your audience right now?
Please.
Okay, for any of you who are feeling anxious at any time, take a big deep breath. And while you're taking your deep breath, count how long it takes you. So, like, maybe that was a 4 count. So then when you exhale, you want to exhale at a higher level count than what your inhale was. So if you
Okay.
inhale for 5, make sure you blow out and exhale for 6. And as long as you
Nice.
focus on counting on your inhales and then a longer exhale, you will start to calm down immediately within 2 minutes.
I love that. I've heard a lot of similar activities, which is like focus on centering yourself. But thank you for giving me that. I was taught um to in college by one of my mentors to sit and like call out everything that I saw, felt, tasted, heard, smelt, and it worked for some time, and now it doesn't work anymore. So I will try that. Thank you.
Try that technique because it's real and it's not woo woo. It's actually physical and it will work.
Perfect. Speaking of that, I know the kitchen can get hot. It can get crazy. Um Other than what you just taught us, what are some things that you've done to be able to navigate and control the crazy world of hospitality and cooking?
Staying within yourself is a really important aspect of being a kitchen leader and being a creative person in the kitchen as well. When you have people working beneath you, you have to understand that, they have their own pride and their own skills. And as long as you put trust into them, you don't have to be that Napoleon or Hitler in the kitchen as their leader. You can just let everybody do their thing to the best of their ability. And if they need help, you can teach that and offer that. But I grew up when I was going to school for culinary arts. I grew up working for guys who would throw knives and yell and scream and
Yeah.
rant and rave. And I'm kind of a mellow creature. And so I never really commanded that kind of an attention to my people. I was never mean or nasty to make them motivated. I treated everybody with the utmost respect, like they were my boss. And you know what? That works. If you can
Mhm.
have a good feeling and put the energy out to people and rely and trust them to enhance their skills more and more each day, I think you'll get a better product.
I love that approach. I on my previous one of my previous episodes, and just in my time of talking to different hospitality leaders, I've heard about different techniques that different leaders use to not demand, but to earn respect from their teams. In industries where there's or departments where there's high turnover, sometimes you have teams who are bruised by having so many managers that by the time you come in, they kind of are numb to any sort of leadership. And I talked about my start as a leader, and I learned that I had to sort of get what I consider like street creds. I came from college right into housekeeping, and I was like, "Hi guys, I'm your manager." And the ladies there were like, "No, you're not. You're like 12. Please get out of my face so I can clean my rooms." And I remember like I knew what my textbooks told me, but I didn't know what a board was, or how to properly tuck a bed at a luxury hotel, or I didn't even know what turn down services were because I'd never stayed at a luxury hotel. So learning to do what they could do, having them teach me and showing them that I was willing to roll my sleeves up and do their work with them and work just as hard and help me earn a lot of respect. But I love, and I also had to become, I found myself becoming a lot like what you said. I was a very tough manager. And it was mostly like, it was me having to do so, feeling like I had to do so because I was immediately taken advantage of because of my age and because of my lack of experience. And so I love to hear another perspective where you were able to earn respect in such a militant space like the kitchen. Um, you were able to do that through a complete opposite way, just through grace and not doing their work for them, but empowering them to be able to do their work and say, hey, look, I trust you. And so I love that. I love that you were sharing that, so thank you.
Even a bunch of misfits can work like a great, well-oiled machine and a team. And so that's what I always relied upon. Let people do the best they can and give them acknowledgement for when they do.
Hmm. That's great, thank you. Do you feel like there are things that guests, consumers, maybe your friends or family over time, there are certain misconceptions about your job or about your industry that you've always felt like you needed to clarify? What are those things, and what are those things, and how did they affect you? How did they make an impact on your life?
The thing that comes to mind first, Courtney, is for so many years, I was unable to go to parties and special holidays and things like that because I was working. I was working in the kitchen, I was running the house,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. And a lot of people don't understand that who don't work in our business. So, uh, I kind of, in a way, regret the fact that I missed so many Thanksgivings or so many Christmases or New Year's Eves and stuff like that. So that's really what comes to mind first. And people have to understand that. So it's something that you have to kind of communicate to your family and loved ones, like I'm not going to be always available for you,
Yeah.
because I'm working, that I try to put food on the table and pay the rent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've experienced that so much, and like you just said, I'm trying to put food on the table and pay the rent. Me, I am blessed to have a husband who brought in most of the bacon. So he did put food on the table and pay the rent. And so, but I was already well in my industry before I met him. And so continuing my job and missing holidays and missing so many things at some point to him was like, it's so not worth it. Like, you're not doing it to bring bacon home. You don't have to bring bacon home. I just need
Right.
you home.
Right.
I also got a lot of slack from my family. My family, they're very family oriented. A lot of them are entrepreneurs. So a lot of them don't really, I won't say respect working for organizations, but it's not as important. Uh, if you're not working for yourself, there's no reason you should be sacrificing important times to work for someone else. So that's kind of their approach. On top of it all, just from friends that didn't understand, I had a lot of friends that have graduated they've gotten degrees in law and doctoral degrees. And so, when they're missing holidays, they're doing politics and saving lives in hospitals, and so that's worth missing a holiday. It's not
So you
worth
bet.
missing a holiday to clean rooms.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Right. And so it was really hard being passionate about an industry that I felt like no one respected, which is one of the many reasons why I built this platform, because I know that I'm not the only one who has you know uh done what you're saying. We are hospitality. So you're sacrificing your time to make other people feel so good. And that makes you feel good when you leave. And then you do come home to people that you love who are like, hey, what about us? And I know that can be challenging.
Well, people who go into hospitality for long ranges of time are
Mhm.
typically people pleasers. I know I am. And so I see that as a very positive indicator of personality. And when you're a people pleaser, you make people feel good.
Yeah,
It kind of it kind of runs your engines a little bit and you feel better about yourself at the same time.
it does. Speaking of, do you, I, there are always stories and experiences that leave imprints on our mind. And I personally have shared a lot of like my poor stories. We have bad stories, but you are such a bright light. I would love for you to share a story or any stories that you have always kept with you that just stick with you, that are, I don't know, a tearjerker or something that really just meant a lot to you, a time that you significantly impacted somebody with your food or your service or something along those lines.
Well, that's a really good question, and it's very thoughtful. I'm going to go back just a few months, if you don't
Oh,
mind,
nice.
instead of many, many years back.
Yeah.
But the Los Angeles fires were a
Mhm.
terrible thing that happened. And so I decided to fly to Los Angeles and cook for the first responders.
Oh,
And that was
nice.
something that I did because I wanted to be able to pay back a little bit. I'm kind of in that pay it forward stage of my life.
Yeah.
I've done so many interesting things, and I thought this would be a really selfless way to be able to reach out and help the folks who are helping us. And so that was something that was really important to me. And spent a few weeks in the LA area doing just that.
What a what a blessing. I love that. I love that. Yeah, no. That is the you brought the merge between hospitality and hospitals. That's where you that's where we
That's
come
right.
together. I love
Oh,
that.
funny that you said hospitals. I used to be in talk radio a long, long time ago in Los
Yeah.
Angeles, and I had a show called Matthew the Primetime Chef. And so the show was talking about food and people and life and stuff, kind of like what I do now,
Mhm.
except what we did was we mentioned to the audience, if you can come up with a compelling reason why Matthew should leave the radio station and drive to your house and cook for you, call us up and give us those reasons. So people would call in, and I would then be sent out after we chose the winner. I would be sent out to whatever place that was. And the hospital part that just caught my attention was I would cook in the middle of an emergency ward for the staff who were taking care
Mhm.
of us. Once again, not unlike what I just did in
Yeah.
LA when I was cooking for the first responders, but I would cook for ER doctors because they didn't have time to pop out and get something. So I would cook in hospitals, I would cook in police stations, I would cook at people's homes who were just doing their laundry in the middle of the night. And
I
then we'd
love that.
finish up the radio show from that location. So that was a lot of fun.
I love that. I love that. That is so nice. That is so sweet. That is hospitality, but that's humanity. That's like you're a humanitarian, just by being a hospitalian. And I don't even know if hospitalian is a real word. It's a term used on a TED talk that I watched, but
It
but
works.
still.
Now it's a word. If you use it and people understand the context, it becomes a word, right?
Yeah. But no, I love that. And I love that you shared that, because there is so much more to our jobs and how we impact people that people don't see on the daily. And I think that that is important. While we may hear Hollywood celebrity chef, it's like, oh, he makes steaks and lobsters for rich people. How important really is his job to the world? But here you are. And so, uh, thank you for your contribution to the world. And thank you for sharing that on my platform.
Oh, you bet. My pleasure.
What led you to launching 50 Tastes of Grey?
Well, 50 Tastes of Grey is my most recent endeavor, and it's a show just like this
Yeah.
where I talk about everything in life worth loving. Now, of course, it's very food forward, but
Mhm.
on any given day, I'll be talking to a comedian or an actor or a healer or something like that. So it's not always about food. It's more about me hoping to reveal the personalities of my
Yeah.
guests because a lot of people always want to talk about what they do for a living. I
Mhm.
want to talk about the person and who they are on the
Yeah.
inside. So I want to go ahead and reveal your personality to my audience. And if they like you and your personality, then they'll want to follow up and find out what you do. But I like to make sure that I take these people and I ask them disarming, sweet questions to get them to kind of share.
Nice. No, I love that. And I think in one of your introduction videos you say the title of my show is 50 Tastes of Grey. I hope that's provocative enough for you. And the name of it kind of throws you off. You're like, what is he talking about? But
Right? They
no, I
think
love
it's like sexy and food kind of stuff, like
it.
X-rated, but it's really not.
Well, food is sexy enough.
Right, right.
What has been the most, and maybe nothing for you since you've already been in the music industry and you were a radio talk show host, but if so, what has been the most surprising part of becoming a podcast host for you?
Like you said, because my radio career kind of dates back to the 1980s, which
Hmm.
is a long ass time ago. Uh, I have I have a lot of experience with interviewing and with speaking with people, and it's all about conversation for me. And even though a lot of people nowadays are swiping on their phones and have no attention span at all, that really doesn't bother me. I like long form conversations
Yeah.
because what better way to really get to know somebody? So, nothing has been surprising with the podcasting world except the editing aspect. So, that's
Hmm.
something that anybody who's thinking about doing podcasting should understand that the editing is going to be the biggest learning curve here.
Absolutely. What would you say to someone who wants to build a business from their passion specifically?
That's a good question, and it's intricate because there are a lot of people who are very creative but have no idea how to run a business.
Hmm.
And so a lot of what I've done throughout my life is help the creative people bridge the gap between their creative side and their business side that they're hoping to develop. And so that's a really big thing. You could be the best cook or the best artist or the best anything, but you might not be successful in business because you don't know how to bridge the gap and be a
Yeah.
business person. And that's super important.
Speaking to a chef, because food is right there. Food is at the base of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It is what we need to be people. It is what it means to be human. We need food, shelter, love, things like that. So, uh, yeah,
Well, you
no,
do
it's
it every single day, right,
every
Courtney? It's
day.
like food is a part of our world, and relationships are built on our connection to others. And really, what's the best way to bridge that gap is to sit down, look me in the eye, celebrate the food, the wine, and the
Yeah.
conversation. There's nothing better
Do
than
you
that.
have any advice, tips, or important notes that you feel that's important to share with fellow industry professionals, potential industry professionals, and consumers in our world?
So special tips that I would share with folks, is that what you're
Advice,
asking?
tips, important notes, things that you feel that they need to know either about our profession or just in general, something you've always wanted to say that you didn't have weren't able to say to an audience. Well, you've always had an audience, but
I never shut up. I'm just so full of words. Um, yeah. And my advice is to, find yourself a mentor, somebody who you can trust, who you can believe in, who has experience, who might be able to offer a little bit of tip or positive energy to help you get to the next step. Because I think that's what a lot of people focus on, that this is what I'm missing. I need this, I need that.
Mhm.
So find somebody you can trust and ask questions. Never feel awkward about asking for help.
Yeah.
And that's what got me this far. Now, I've been alive a long time. And so my parents taught me, hey, Matt, if you got any questions, just ask for help from people, and everybody wants to be helpful.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So don't feel embarrassed or too internal about it. Just reach out and say, I could use a little bit of assistance or advice. And that will be really, really beneficial for you.
I love that you say everyone wants to be helpful. That's kind of what I feel is the other than money and popularity, that's sort of like the cause for this big influencer culture. Everyone wants to be an influencer. Everyone
Oh,
wants to
don't
feel
get me
that
started on the whole influencer thing.
everyone wants to feel that they are helping in some way. Some people, at least some people do. Other people are, just doing things for popularity and because, social media pays. But for the most part, I truly feel that's where influence and culture has started. The need to feel that they are helping.
Courtney, that's so funny that you mentioned it because that's one of the things that makes me crazy. There was a recent study, and it came back. I think the study was of kids, the newer generation, and they were asked, what would you like to be when you grow up? And a huge percentage of them, like 30, 40% of them said, I want to be an influencer.
Oh, wow.
It's like they have no education, they have no experience in doing anything, but they want to be an influencer.
Yeah, they want
So
to
I think
influence.
social media has gone a bit too far.
And what I'm actually very shocked by, uh, the people that I'm finding, other than very young people, the people that I'm finding that are very addicted to it are like, even my parents are like social media fiends. And it's not their generation. It's actually, at one point, they're my parents. At one point they were telling me to put my phone down. And now, like, they're getting older. They're both retired. And so me and my sisters are like, oh my goodness, if mommy and daddy send us another link to a video, and we just get these videos. My dad's like sending funny videos from Instagram. My mom's sending like these like conspiracy videos from YouTube. And we're like, y'all, go play golf or something.
You know what's funny though? It's like you got to give mom and dad a break because you know what? For a lot of years before social media, they kicked ass and they took care of their families,
Yeah.
and it's their time to relax and get onto the Facebook and do whatever they're doing.
Yeah. So stop sending us links. We're not watching those.
Right, right. That's
Well,
funny.
Chef Gray, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your insights, and your incredible energy with us today. I know that our listeners are going to be excited. They're going to walk away inspired. Some people might even, walk away just changed in general. I know some people, hospitality can get it can get rough in a lot of industries, and I've seen some people lose their spark. So hopefully, this interview reignites them. Um, and for those of you tuning in, be sure to check out Matthew's podcast, 50 Tastes of Grey. In all of my descriptions, I'll have links to 50 Shades of Grey, and I'll be happy to share it. So be sure to check the description for the links, even his website too. He has so much. There's so much, but I have it all. I've already listed it out. I have my notes. So your website, your YouTube
I'm like an
link.
amusement park over here.
Yes, sir. But all of the access to you will be in my episode descriptions. Should you want more information on Chef Gray and 50 Tastes of Gray. And if you enjoyed this episode, please follow, share, leave a review wherever you're listening. And if you know someone that's in our industry and they feel that they are working behind the service and no one sees them, or that they have a story to share, send them our way. We're always looking for real voices from the heart of the hospitality industry. Thank you again, Chef Gray, for being here, and thank you all for listening.
Courtney, what a blast. Thank you so much for having me. I want to say aloha to you and your audience.
Thank you. Aloha.